Hello, I'll start off. I'm glad to be here. I'm Roger Crockett. I'm a writer for Business Week magazine, which is the largest business magazine in the world. And what I do at that magazine is I get an opportunity to write about legendary history-making business people like the two panelists we have here with us today. And I just want to say quickly, before introducing them, that I understand and I really love the power of the written word. But I also understood the power of business. Business is what makes the world go round, which is why I chose to be a business writer in my career. And I want to sort of set up as a kind of a organizing principle for our discussion today. I want to ask each of you to be business writers for the day, or at least for this session, to be journalists. And the reason why I want you to do that is I want you to ask questions. We want this to be an interactive panel where it's not just about me asking questions of our panelists. It's about you guys being journalists, asking important questions to gain knowledge as if you were going to write your own article. So think about what interests you personally, but think about what's really important about what they do, as if you were going to write an article to tell the world what's important about what they do. So think about that as we move forward. You heard them talk a little bit in the video. Let me just take a moment to say a few more words about these gentlemen and then let them take over. Ralph Moore to my left is a minority business consultant, was born in Evanston, Illinois. After graduating from Evanston High School, he attended Southern Illinois University, where he earned his bachelor's degree. The following year, he was awarded his CPA, his accountant's license. And after earning his bachelor's degree, he took a position with the accounting firm Arthur Andersen. So he's an accountant by training. From there, he served as vice president for the Minority Enterprise Small Business Investment Company and was controller for Parker House Sausage Company. He founded then Ralph G. Moore Associates. So he is an entrepreneur, founded his own company. And today, his business is one of the premier consulting firms for helping employers to diversify their suppliers. So, give a warm round of applause to Ralph Moore. And let me just also then quickly introduce our other panelist, Robert Blackwell. Mr. Blackwell went to Wichita State University on an athletic scholarship where he played football. But he was forced by injuries to leave football and came under the guidance of his math teacher, and she helped him focus on education, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Later, Mr. Blackwell went to work for IBM while the business computer company was in its infancy. This is years ago. Beginning as a systems engineer, he was working as an IBM salesperson. He later became director of the Greater Chicago Consulting Services arm and soon became IBM's highest ranking black executive. He left IBM in the early 1990s to form his own consulting company with his son, now based in Chicago, Blackwell Consulting, which has nationwide offices that offer information technology services and consulting to businesses throughout the country. So let's welcome Mr. Robert Mr. Blackwell, why don't you start off there and say a few more words just about your life, your business. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to be here, and one of the things that I observe is that this whole business of business, which is you hear words like entrepreneur and the like, is something that historically African Americans, us, haven't paid a lot of attention to, and have not done much. And so if you look in where you live and you ask yourself who owns the currency exchange, who owns the clothing store, who owns the bank, who owns the 7-Eleven, it's somebody that doesn't look like you, okay? And most of those people, if you live either on the south side or the west side of Chicago, years ago it was the Jews who immigrated to the country, and they came into black neighborhoods and they ran the commerce. When the Jews left, the Asians came in, the Koreans. When the Koreans left, the Arabs come in, and there are an awful lot of Arabs that own businesses on the south and west side, okay? And people, we've historically gotten mad at people, and there's a certain amount of anti-Semitism, a certain amount of anti-Korean, a certain amount of anti-Arab that exists. But the reason those people come into the black community is because they ain't got anywhere else to go. People didn't want Jews in their neighborhood, therefore they migrated to black neighborhoods. Now, the big success story of black business is hip hop. Now, that's something that every black kid knows, right? But prior to the hip hop business, white folks owned all the businesses. The blacks were performers. We were performers. Nat King Cole and Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan, and you could go on and on and on and on. But they were performers, and they did not. And I'm not sure this is accurate history, but I think it is. The guy that really drove this whole thing about business, the one that I know about, is Master P. Master P was down there in Louisiana, and he knew how to sing a song, right? He knew how to rap, he knew how to do all that. But what he decided to do was to distribute his records himself. And he put it in the trunk of his car.
Bob, before you start, I didn't see enough people taking notes. Journalists take notes, but I hope you got some of that stuff in your head, because that was some deep stuff. We're going to come back and let you guys ask questions in a minute. Now, Mr. Moore.
On that point, there's an old saying, that the faintest ink is better than the strongest memory. So,
preach.
Yeah, I carry a ton of these things. I got to use them when I can. I'm always honored to be anywhere with Bob Blackwell. Bob is, I can't say he's modest, because part of being an entrepreneur is you got to have a little attitude. It's interesting. And what I love about Bob is he's a proud man. He's done a lot. But one of the things he didn't share with you, now how many people work for you, Bob?
It's about 300.
300 people. That is a huge organization. Think about that. That's 300 mortgages, car notes, college tuition, grocery bills. I mean, that's a responsibility that's very significant. And when we start talking about unemployment in our neighborhoods, black entrepreneurs employ more folks in our neighborhoods than major companies. So we have to be very careful when we start looking to someone to save us. We can save ourselves. And one of the things that we talk about a lot, and I'm gonna go back and we'll have some more interaction. But and I think the question you had early on was what was the one thing that led to my success? The one thing that led to my success is not accepting someone else's judgment of my abilities. I grew up in Evanston, went to Evanston High School, graduated in 1967. I had a counselor to tell me point blank, Ralph, do not waste your family's money by going to college. You should just go to vocational school because you're not college material. I had an accounting teacher, and this is, and I love this because it's very motivating for me. I had an accounting teacher who, it was such a volatile situation. And many of you, now let me just ask, what's your name? Melvin, you're awfully sharp today. So you came ready. Now, but what happens if somebody puts their hands on you? What's your reaction to that?
That's like what you mean.
I mean, somebody just grabs you like this.
You mad?
Huh?
You mad?
Oh, you're mad. You're right. I had an accounting teacher grab me like this one day. Anyway, long story short, we duked it out for a little bit. He threw me out of class. I flunked the class. So now here I am. In high school, you have a class from September to June, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, I'm in the final exam. We had that altercation maybe 3 or 4 months before that. 30 people in the class. And Mr. Moore, why are you here? If you got 100 on my class, you'd still flunk my class. He announces that to the whole class. So I get up to leave. So we have another little altercation. But needless to say, here I am. When I go to college, the one thing I know I can't do is go study accounting. I've had a terrible experience. Fast forward, I end up taking accounting, doing very well. Matter of fact, at SIU, they tell me that I still have the record for the highest grade point average in the accounting program. Fast forward I passed the CPA exam. I'm working at Arthur Anderson. I go back to school, to my high school, and I see my accounting teacher. This is the guy who we've had a physical altercation. My counselor who told me not to go to college. Both of them are there. And I realized, that's satisfaction, because had I accepted their assessment of me, I would be, and I spent a little time in the pool room too, for those of you who shoot a little 9-ball. We could go do that too if you want to. But the reality is you can't allow a snapshot in time to define who you are. And I was just like, you guys were probably ahead of me, because had I been at something like this that was not in my school, I guarantee you I would probably be in the pool room right now. There's no way I'd have made it from one school to this school. I'd have had an excuse, or, I'm sure some of your boys didn't make it. They're somewhere, where they are, but they're not here, okay?